Visual reinforcement audiometry is a method of behavioral assessment using operant conditioning. Children are conditioned to turn their head in response to a stimulus. Presenting them with something interesting to look at, such as a toy that lights up or moves, or a simple video clip, reinforces their head turn. This method allows for more consistent and reliable responses for children approximately 6 months through 2.5 years of age, keeping in mind this is more dependent on developmental age rather than chronological age. The stimuli are typically a pure tone, warble tone, narrow band noise, or speech. A variation of stimuli is often used to keep the child interested in the activity. If the child will tolerate it, testing should be performed with insert earphones to obtain ear-specific information. Testing in sound field is the next best option, with the results representing the better hearing ear. The pediatric assistant's primary role in VRA is to center the child being tested. Once a child responds to a stimulus, the assistant brings his or her attention back to center so the child is able to turn his or her head again in response to the next stimulus. Picture books, blocks, plastic rings, or even your own hands are a few examples of tools used to bring the child's attention back to center. The assistant should be interesting enough to get the child's attention without being too interesting, preventing the child from responding to the next stimulus. When it appears that the child has lost interest in the assistant, switch activities to regain the child's attention. The assistant is also responsible for showing excitement for the visual reinforcer, increasing the child's interest in it. Continuous positive feedback should be provided to the child throughout the testing.
Ella, look! Look up there!
There's a frog.
Good job!
To begin, the child has to be conditioned to turn his or her head to the signal. This is done by playing the stimulus at an intensity level the child is likely to hear and playing the reinforcer at the same time. Once the child is responding on his or her own, the conditioning process is finished and the threshold search can begin.
Yay! Ribbit, ribbit. Ribbit, ribbit.
Now that the child is conditioned, the threshold search can begin. To search for threshold, the intensity of the stimulus is lowered to find the softest level at which the child will respond correctly 50% of the time.
Yay! You're doing a good job.
Children will often turn their head towards the reinforcer in the absence of a stimulus. This is referred to as a false positive. This is a positive sign as it shows the child is interested in the reinforcer. However, it is important that false positive responses are not reinforced or encouraged by the assistant.
You're doing good.
If a child continuously gives false positive responses, it becomes more difficult to determine when a response to the stimulus is a true response versus a coincidental head turn.
Yay! Good job, ribbit, ribbit.
When the child begins losing interest in the object used for centering, the number of false positive responses increase. At this time, the assistant should switch to a different centering object to regain the child's interest and reduce the number of false positives.
Yay! Good
There's a frog
job. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Yay! Good job, Ella. You're doing good.
It is important to be flexible when testing children. The goal is to obtain as much diagnostic information as possible while being as efficient as possible. As children fatigue, they become less cooperative and increasingly fussy, making it more difficult to obtain reliable test results.
Yay!
This first example is a child who is so interested in the pediatric assistant's face that he has no interest in turning his head in response to the stimulus. The assistant is using the pegboard to hide her face in hopes of gaining interest in the visual reinforcer.
Yay! Good job! Yay! That was a good one. Good job. Ready, back over here. Yay! Yay! The panda! Playing the drums. He's so silly. Frank. Where's that panda?
Here is another example of a difficult-to-test baby. After some time, she began losing interest in the visual reinforcer and was getting hungry and fussy. In an effort to regain the child's interest and acquire a few more test results, the stimulus was changed from warble tones to narrow band noise. The audiologist may also switch to speech testing, since speech is more interesting to listen to, and then go back to the tones later.